Welcome to But Enough About Me, a podcast about other people. My name is Tyler Andrews. I'm a Nashville-based photographer, husband, and father. I'm trying to collect the stories of everyone around me, whether we're best friends or total strangers. I want to know what made you the person you are today. Welcome to the podcast, guys. If things sound a little different and a little weird, that's because I am currently pacing around the game room in the Children's Centennial Hospital here in Nashville, Tennessee, because we had a minor family health emergency that has seriously impeded my ability to record and edit a podcast. But the show must go on, and so it will. Guys, I'm so excited for you to meet my guest today. She is a good friend of mine, has been since high school, and an even better friend of my wife's, since she knew her back in middle school. She's an artist and a sweet, sweet person who has dealt with some heavy stuff in her life and has got a wonderful perspective that it was really good for me to hear, and frankly that I can't wait to share with you. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Guys, I can't wait for you to meet my very good friend, Maranda Stebbins. That must be what it is. We'll see if I can hear it on the recording later. Okay, Maranda.
Hi.
Where are you from? Where were you born?
I was born in Michigan.
Okay. When?
Oh gosh, you're asking me
Roughly.
how old I am?
Early 80s?
Early 80s.
Okay. I know.
You know what year I was born in. I was born when E.T. was released in the theaters.
Me too. If someone wants to do the math.
Right. And I love Reese's Pieces, and I think that goes hand in hand.
Do you have siblings?
I have an older sister.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How much older?
5 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a chunk.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your folks.
Okay, mom and dad. They were both old hippies.
Okay.
That's how I think I like to describe them. But my mom said they were more like flower children hippies. So
I didn't know that was a difference.
Not sure like the details about this, but they were like less into drugs and more into like peace and love.
Got it.
That's kind of how they...
Less
but,
drugs,
that's the story they told me as a kid, so who knows what.
That's awesome.
But they were just like, they got married on a nature trail. My mom had a daisies in her hair and made her own dress and was very...
Wow.
Yeah, like very simple, sweet.
Yeah.
And my dad's always been into plants, and so he went to college and got his master's in horticulture. Okay. And he's still working and doing gardening, master gardening. And my mom, gosh, she did like a million different jobs. She had a daycare. She did sign language interpreting. She did worked in an auto factory for many years. That was kind of like the turning point for our family, I think, a little bit, because she worked at Oldsmobile basically just because it was good money kind of thing. And I think she liked the idea of like working in a man's world and like being the tough, Yep. And so she fought her way into that company to get a job because she knew she could make good money, and then worked there for a while, got laid off, and then took the job here at Saturn. That's what took us to Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So
were you in Detroit or Flint?
We were in Lansing, East Lansing.
Oh, okay.
So there's a factory there, I guess, Oldsmobile. Yeah. Yeah, and my mom has passed away. So she passed away about 10 years ago. She was already done with Saturn though. So we were down here in Tennessee and just kind of, what was she doing? It's really funny now. Like, I'll have to be like brutally honest that there is like this thing about my memory around my mom passing away where my memory just goes fuzzy and like time and space changes.
What's your sister's name?
Darcy.
I knew that. Tell me about life growing up in Lansing.
Well, we moved when I was about 11. So what I remember of Lansing is just being a little kid. Yeah. And I don't actually remember much about my mom working in a factory. Like there was some time where they tell me like I gained a lot of independence during that time period because my dad was kind of like a typical quote unquote dad where he just wasn't he didn't know what to do like except for like, oh, here's some food and I'm gonna watch TV and
Right.
so I think I just figured out how to get my mom would say I would learn how to get into the kitchen and fix myself food at a
Sure.
really young age.
Yeah.
I learned how to use the TV and VCR by myself at a really young age. Like I figured out like little life hacks just
Yeah.
to like, be self-sufficient when I was little. And that was because my mom had gone back to work and and my dad is more of a free range parent or whatever you want to
Sure.
call it. Like
It worked out.
yeah.
Fine.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. So I kind of remember Michigan just being like, what I do remember actually is my dad worked for MSU, the Michigan State University,
Mhm.
and he worked as a master gardener there or I don't remember his job, horticulturist. Hold on. There was like a word for it, plant pathologist.
Wow.
Yeah, plant pathologist. And so he diagnoses like plant disease and things like that. But part of his job was working in the horticulture department at MSU, and he had access to all of like the greenhouses and stuff. And so as kids, he would take us through, and I can like remember how good that smells and just being around all the plants and
Yeah.
like just that was a really fun kind of experience
That
that we
is
used to
pretty
do.
cool.
And like out in strawberry fields, like picking strawberries, and that was a part of our growing up. So
That's cool.
yeah,
How'd you do in school? Elementary school?
pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I was always a pretty good student.
You don't remember any particularly bad teachers or?
Yeah, I had some bad teachers. I was always like weird, I guess you could say. I kind of hesitate to use that word because I think it's like not fair, but a little weird. And like maybe my mom encouraged me to be creative and artsy. And so when I went into school, I kind of was like, well, that's okay, right? And there are some teachers who love that, and then there
Yeah.
are some teachers who that just is their nightmare, So I had a couple teachers
Get
who,
back in the box.
yeah, I remember this is a story that's like related. Is I wrote a story about a squirrel, and he was a leafitarian,
Nice.
and
Excellent.
I picked the word on purpose, leafitarian,
Yeah.
and she like X'd it out with a red vegetarian, and my mom was like, no. She like came to bat for me. No, she said leafitarian, and that's what she meant.
It's like her story. Why can't?
Well, and I was trying to be funny in my
Yeah.
little like second grade way,
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's really funny. She
You
was
did
the
have
rough
some bad
one.
teachers.
Yeah.
You want to put her on blast? What's her name?
Mrs. Holly, hey, what's up?
See, Mrs. Holly. You can't hold Miranda down.
I had so many more good ones, though. I really think I did. Like,
Yeah.
the good outweighed the bad.
Tell me about friends. Did you have friends? Because you said you were pretty free range. Did you get to just run out and go to friends' houses, hang out?
In Michigan?
Yeah.
Or here? Yeah, Michigan, yeah. I mean, I think it is funny talking about, like, would you do that with your kids now? But, like, we got to run the neighborhood, and actually, I think there were times when, like, the parents would, like, kick us out of the house and not let us come back in.
Absolutely.
And be like, go find something to do.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to clean the house or whatever
Yeah.
they wanted to do.
You said with air quotes.
Yes.
What did you have in
I'm
mind?
just saying.
So, at about 11, you said, is when you guys moved to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty dramatic shift.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember there being much conversation or
Yeah.
how did that go?
My mom pitched it to us really positively. So she like sold it. So I actually remember being really excited
Yeah.
and being like, yeah, like I'm moving to Tennessee. It's going to be sunny all the time and warm, and Michigan's cold, and
Yeah. Yeah.
see you later, Michigan. Like,
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
kind of attitude. And we kind of did it where I came down with my mom earlier, and then my dad and sister came later. So there were like a couple months in that transitional period in the summer where I was just down here with my mom, which was kind of cool. I mean, she was working a lot, but it was just like a really interesting, I guess, experience to be that age. And
Yeah.
it may be the reason it may be the reason that I find it easy to move to new places and kind of like crave that to some extent,
Yeah.
because it's fun for me.
Michigan to Nashville is a big shift.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the funny thing where my mom sold it to us in such a positive way that I had no idea I was going to be walking into any kind of prejudice or like the word Yankee. Like, I
Yeah.
had no idea people used it still, you know?
Yeah.
And that anybody would hold me responsible for
Yeah.
history,
The War
you
of
know?
Northern Aggression. Yes.
But actually, like, the first time that happened to me, it was in a church here.
Wow.
And it was a friend who took me to, like, a youth group type of thing
Right. What
at a
happened?
huge mega church here in Franklin. And, yeah, it was like after class, and the kids were being picked up by the parents, and I was picked up by my friend's mom because we went together, and she and another mom were talking, and the other mom didn't have any idea who I was or where I was from. So the other mom was like, "Oh, those damn Yankees all coming down from Michigan." And I mean, she was talking about my family, and I was just
Yeah.
like, "Ooh."
Oh.
I did not know what to do, and it was such an awkward,
But
you know.
did she follow it up with a bless your heart?
It's funny because I don't remember much after that because I feel like I kind of froze. Like, oh
Yeah.
God, I hope she doesn't know, or I'm trying to think of. I was probably 11, so
Yeah.
what does an 11-year-old think in a situation like that? Like, I just don't want to be found out in this
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
I would rather just like
Just
fly under the radar and get out of here.
pretend I'm not here.
But sadly, that sort of reflects on the youth group. It's like I don't really want to go back there necessarily. It's just one of those little ugly
Yeah.
things that you see that, and then as a kid you're like, that has nothing to do with me, and she kind of hates me, she doesn't know me.
Right.
Like, wow.
That's not
You
about
know?
me.
Yeah.
That's about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long were you guys down here? Well, I guess it would have been about 6th grade. Is that right?
No, it was I went into 5th grade here.
And that's, you said your mom was down here with you and your dad was still up north with
Just
Darcy.
that summer before, yeah, like right before I started 5th grade.
Okay. So by the time you started school, everybody was down here. Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. And your mom was working at Saturn.
Yep. My mom was working at Saturn, and let's see. My dad, I think pretty quickly, my parents started building a house. I don't know if you remember, we had an awesome house out by Page High School and Page Middle School.
Nice. I never
Because
saw your house.
oh man, it's still there. It's actually an Airbnb.
So you
It's
can rent your old
heartbreaking.
house?
Yes, my sister and I are like, we should just do it one day and like invite all of our friends who remember, like being out there or whatever, people from high school, and like we can just have a little party.
That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I do really still want to do that. I don't have like an extra $200 to throw around.
No.
Not right now.
Anyway, sorry.
Right.
So yeah, so you guys started building a house.
That's what my dad did, because I think he was like looking for work a little bit, but then I think they found a piece of land and were like, let's just do that. And so he started building the house. And my mom was just working at Saturn.
Yeah.
Hard. Yeah, like working all the time.
Yeah. More than 40 hours.
Oh, yeah. It's so brutal.
When were her shifts? Would you see her in the morning? Would you see her at night? Would
Okay,
you never
here
see her?
you wanna go into this. I'm like, because this is like brutal. I
Yeah?
really feel passionately about like contributing to like her being sick and stuff like that, because she had what they called a rotating shift.
Oh.
And it was something they were trying out because they thought it was going to be great for everyone. So that no one had to be all nights and no one had to be all days. And so it was like 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks on, something weird like that.
Yeah.
And literally she could never get her cycle
Sleep
right.
patterns and
Never. It was like as soon as she was starting to feel normal, it was like ready to go.
Yeah. Change it up.
And they would do things like, I mean, she was already making a ton of money an hour for the time.
Right.
And then they would be like, okay, you can get double time, triple time, like quadruple if they really, really wanted people to come. So she would just like, I mean,
it's hard to turn that money down.
yeah. And she liked to challenge herself, and she liked to like be tough
Yeah.
and like push herself past what she did not have a concept of self-care. Like that, as a grown woman, was new to me. Like in my 30s, I was like, self-care?
Yeah.
Huh? But I realized because my mom didn't do that stuff for herself. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, but really it was like a super treat to go get a massage, or like, something that you really should be, not feeling guilty about
Right.
to just take care of yourself, especially someone working that hard,
Yeah.
you know, and making the money that she could have gone and done things for herself. But I don't know. I know she was doing it for the family. Like that's her whole thing is she grew up poor, and so she felt like the answer was making a ton of money. And so that was her.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So your sister would have been, so if you were in 5th grade, she probably was a sophomore-ish?
Yeah, I want to say she went into high school. I don't think she did middle school. So yeah, freshman or sophomore year of
What
high
was your
school.
relationship with her like?
Um,
What was it?
it's it's sisters, so it's complicated. I mean, we love each other, and I honestly think like the sort of like irony or whatever you want to call it of us losing my mom together brought us so much closer.
Mm.
But we're just so different. Like we are fundamentally really different people, and like we hate each other like sisters do. I mean, I don't
Absolutely.
think I'm like thinking if she's listening to this, I don't want her to get mad at me because I think she would be like, I don't hate you.
Yeah.
And I don't hate her either, but she can like get under my skin like no one else.
Absolutely.
She can cause anxiety like no one else. Like it's just because we know each other so deeply
Mm-hmm.
and I think there is that like tension of like, I love her so much that she can like make me so mad, you know?
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of like, maybe competitive feelings growing up. And like, I think the joke now that we're older and looking back is she was constantly praised for being cute and outgoing. And like, she was very popular in school. And I was praised for being smart and artsy and weird. I mean, like, you know what I mean? So we both had the insecurity of the thing we didn't have. So I always felt like I wasn't cute enough and didn't have a like fun enough personality. And she always felt like she wasn't smart enough. You know, because we like kind of hate each other for the things we don't have or whatever. But I don't know. It is interesting. Like as you get older and you watch like people's lives cycle through, and I just spend a lot of time just trying to be like, you know, I don't have to be like her. Like I appreciate a lot of her qualities. There are some things that I'm like, oh, I wish I had my sister here because she's so good at this.
Yeah.
Like she's a type A, so she gets stuff done and like she's very organized. But then that's like can drive you crazy too. So
I get it.
Yeah.
I guess 5 years apart, you're probably not playing together a lot and hanging out together. It was probably
I think I wanted to. I think I was like the annoying little sister.
Yeah.
You know, and because she was always so cool, you know, and I always thought she had the coolest clothes and the coolest Barbies and all the cool music and like so I think without realizing it, like me kind of idolizing her drove her crazy.
Yeah.
And then there was like that period of time in Tennessee when we had to share a bedroom.
Yeah.
And she really did hate me, I think, during that time. Like honestly. Because I wanted to be part of her world so bad. And it's just like, I couldn't understand, like, why do you hate me so bad? What am I doing? It's just, you're just being a kid.
Yeah.
And that's just annoying sometimes, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. All right. So tell me about middle school. You're here in Tennessee. Dad's building the house. When did you move in?
Did it take that long to build? I'm trying to think. It was like sophomore year or junior year of high school. So was it that many years?
That's a long time.
No, we moved out. Okay.
You moved in middle and moved out in high school.
Yes.
Got it.
My mom, this is the full circle of that story, is we sold the house because my mom wanted to quit Saturn.
Oh.
Yep.
And it was just too much house for the
Well, it was
change
sort
in
of,
income?
there are different stories in my family, but yeah, I think it was like my mom basically was like, I know a way that we can make this happen really easily. Sell the house, you know?
Yep.
So.
Cool. So then middle school. So you went to
Page Middle School.
Middle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's kind of where all the Franklin people start trickling into my life. Gosh, it's so funny because I found some old photographs of myself around middle school, and I can see the year I got braces, like some kind of sadness behind my eyes. And I was like, I don't think that goes away until the braces come off. Like, I think I just know, like, oh man, like this hard time period just got that much harder because
Yeah.
now I have to do this with metal on my teeth. Like,
Oh my gosh. These
it's
braces come with
awful.
ennui.
Yes.
Oh my
And just when
gosh.
like all those insecurities, like, I mean, and it's hard to talk about because it's so vulnerable, but like really having insecurities about not being cute enough. And that's like a major theme in my life because of our relationship, and my sister really is a beautiful human. And not to say I'm not, it's just growing up watching her and being like, oh God, I want to be like that kind of thing
Right.
gave me these little complexes that most people have.
Yeah.
But just thinking about that, like at that time period where you're hitting like puberty
Oh
and you
yeah.
want to be cute, and then it's like glasses, braces,
Acne.
boom, acne.
Yeah.
Like,
Hormones going
right.
crazy.
And you're just, why? You know?
Yeah. Nature can be a real jerk sometimes.
Totally. Maybe for your own good, but.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So middle school is usually when people start, I mean, I guess maybe this is part of that. Middle school is usually when people start discovering romance. Was that a thing for you?
Well, yes and no. Like, I definitely had romantic interest, but I was always too afraid to do anything about it. I
Really?
think I had like partial fear of just like being rejected, but then the other part, oh, if he likes me, he's gonna make the first move, which spins into my current relationship because I'm currently dating my middle school crush. So he's somebody that I had a crush on in middle school.
About time.
Uh-huh. And it is like as adorable as it sounds on some level because we actually could remember like experiences of going to the play. We went and saw Frankenstein as a class one time.
Okay.
And I already liked him and he probably like had his eye on me. We ended up like sitting together in the theater, like next to each other, which is like a really big deal.
Yes.
And then the whole play, my heart's beating and I'm
Yep.
like, oh my God, what do I do? And I remember him trying to hold my hand and just sweaty, like grabbing my hand. And instead of being like holding his hand back like a normal person, I just freeze like that lizard in Rango, like,
yeah,
you know? And so his version of the story is, I tried to hold your hand and you didn't hold it back. So I was like, oh, I guess she doesn't like me. And my version is, you held my hand and I didn't want to wash it for like the rest of the year. And I just thought about that moment over and over and over. And I was sure that you would come back and like ask me out because, you know what I mean? Like from that point of view, I was like, well, if he likes me, this isn't the last of it. Like it's going to happen again, you know, which I think we were like friendly and stuff, but I was just too painfully shy to like give. Now that I know what I know now about men.
Yes.
And how shy they are and insecure they are.
Do tell. Yes.
I need to give you a little symbol that something was like, that it was worth.
Especially after that.
Continuing to pursue. Yeah. So I think there was this weird myth in my mind that was the guy's always going to pursue you. And I think it's like stories. It's like he just won't stop. He's just going to keep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which in reality, that's kind of creepy. And most guys don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. If like Sleeping Beauty, if some random guy came in and woke you up by kissing you and you didn't know this person.
Right.
You'd mace them.
Right.
You know?
Right. And when someone like makes a move and you don't respond, it keeps going. Exactly. That's kind of stalkery, right? Or
yeah.
You don't really want to be like that. Why are we taught that that's romantic?
I don't know. Any other dramatic shifts in middle school?
I think really it's funny. I think of middle school. I think of being more sure of myself on some level, that I was just starting to understand feminism and understand as I'm growing into myself that I'm strong enough and I like can do anything I want to do with my life. And I kind of, that's how it was raised. And yeah, my middle school was really more about my friends, and I had a best friend who was kind of getting crazy and going boy crazy, and you know the whole what do we call it, like skaters back then.
Yep.
And there's this place, oh, you probably know this place, Rocket Town.
I remember it.
That's like a skate park, and it used to be by the mall, and it's like where you could hang out. It was sort of a club for kids.
Yeah, it was the theory, at least.
And it Christian club
In theory.
in theory, but literally had my first cigarette there.
And thus ends the theory.
On and on, yep. And that's like where my friend and I would hang out, but then she started like getting into more trouble. Like she wanted to like kind of go bad, and I was a little too young for that. So it was a little sad because it was like the best friends parting ways and going in different paths or whatever.
Yeah.
But ultimately, now that I'm an adult, I'm glad I made that choice too.
So tell me about high school.
So high school, let's see.
You went to Centennial High School.
Centennial High School.
You were part of the first freshman class
True.
in Centennial High School.
Mm-hmm. We had the option to go to Page, or I had the option to go to Page or Centennial, and I was like, I'm going to Centennial.
Just because it was
amazing.
New?
Yeah, because it was like you're going to be the first graduating class, and it seemed cool. And my sister went to Page, and that was like a height of, oh God, I don't want to live in her shadow. There was actually this period of time where I couldn't go into public without people saying, "Are you Darcy's sister?" And it would just make me insane because I think it was just the dynamic of where we were at in our relationship. Because if someone were to say that to me now, I would be like, yeah, and excited about it. But it doesn't happen to me all the time now.
So what did you like in high school? What were good classes?
Art. I mean, I didn't like my art teacher, but I liked the art class.
Sure.
I feel like my English teachers were usually pretty good. I feel like high school was kind of stressful. It was kind of like a lot of politics and we had a horrible vice principal. I don't know if you remember.
I do remember him. It's hard to forget.
Very.
So what was your forte in art? What did you like doing?
I've always loved drawing, painting, mixed media. I like doing anything with art. Yeah.
Just creating.
Yeah. And I think I loved doing theater and the sets and stuff for theater because it was like being part of a team. So I do like collaborating and figuring stuff out with people. It's fun.
Do you get that from your mom or your dad? Or both?
Probably both. I think my mom was more like outwardly artistic, but the more I get to know my dad, the more I see that it's in there. He has the creative brain for sure.
That's awesome.
He's more left-brained, but
Did you ever get in trouble in high school?
No, but that my high school boyfriend did.
Yeah.
So he went to ALC and yeah.
So you graduated in 2000. I know this because I was there.
I was there, man.
What was the plan after high school?
Art school.
Yeah.
Like I made that choice in college or in high school with the help of my boyfriend at the time because I was like kind of planning to go to UT, University of Tennessee, to a state school because it was the smart thing to do, kind of, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Economical?
Like the responsible thing to do. Let's just go to the state school and like call it a day. But yeah, like the guy I was dating at the time, we had like a really sweet little like high school love, and he was just like, you're really good at art, you should like go to art school. What? No, that's crazy. And then the more he kind of talked about it and the more we talked about school and college, it was like, well, just apply and then see what happens then, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hurt to apply. And so then I applied to, I want to say like 4 schools and got into like all of them.
Nice.
And so then I was like, oh crap, like this is I brought that to my parents and was like, now what? And they were just like, well, do what you want to do. Like if you got in, you can go to wherever you want to go. Thank God. They were like so sweet like that. But yeah, I got a scholarship to go where I ended up going. That was the best scholarship I took. The one with the best scholarship because art school wasn't cheap.
Yes. Where'd you go?
Kansas City Art Institute.
Okay.
Kansas City, Missouri. Love Kansas City. So cool. Like I still have really good relationships with a lot of those people. I wish I were smarter, like on some level when I had gone into college. Like I'm really conflicted about that a little bit, sending an 18-year-old in
Oh,
to college, like, because I feel like I got a really awesome education on one level, like a lot of good theory and a lot of good, like, history
mm-hmm.
and, like, knowledge and base,
Yep.
but practical skills,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I still don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, and so that to be said is like, I still to this day, I'm like, I don't regret my art education. I just kind of feel sad that it was so expensive, and what
Yeah.
I got for it was really just like um my own, personal growth, which isn't bad. It's just sort of like
Sure.
a bougie thing to do. It's just like I'm not really from that kind of a family, to be able to just be like, I'm just gonna learn and have no idea what's gonna happen with that. But
Right.
that is what I did.
Yeah. That's
So,
all right.
you know.
Did you graduate in 4 years?
Yeah, I did. I
And
graduated in 4 years.
so that was you moved
Printmaking.
away,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Um, oh, we skipped over. You said your family moved out of the house because your mom
Right, right, right. That was
left
senior
Saturn.
year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was getting it confused, because my high school boyfriend, Chris, helped us move out. And I remember like moving boxes
Mm-hmm.
and him. And so I was like, oh, that was high school. But that was moving out instead of moving in. So we actually didn't live in that house for very long, the one that they built.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that rough on your dad
I
to
think
put
it
that
was,
kind of effort into something like that?
I should ask him that. I feel like I noticed it for my mom more, but
Really?
I would notice it because she was the more emotional parent.
And it was her idea.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I really should ask him, because it's like he is very, I used to think he was like completely stoic,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that's not true now. I think he just kind of did that as some guys do,
Mm-hmm.
just to be easier and not compete with like the emotional people in the house.
Especially when you're the only guy and there's three girls. And
True.
yeah. It may be that he was highly emotional. It was just
Well,
relative. It just didn't show.
can I say I relate to, now that I'm getting older, I can relate to him more, and I notice like aspects of myself shut down in
Mm.
certain times,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like the safer, easier. But then what I'm really noticing as I'm getting older is his insecurities are like we have the same. And so when I was growing up and like being emotional about that stuff, it would
Yeah.
make him shut down because it was like triggering.
Yeah.
He didn't have that language to like explain that, but like he's insecure in the way that
Yeah.
I'm insecure. And so like if I would have these like,
Yeah.
he'd just be like, stop it.
Stiff upper lip.
Just
Suck it up.
get over it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, I see what that was. Like,
You just didn't want to cry too.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So when you guys moved out, did you just downsize to a smaller house, or
Yeah,
what
we
did you do?
basically just moved into a little place in Franklin,
Yeah.
another place in Franklin.
Had your sister moved out?
Yeah, she was in college at this point. So
Okay.
I think that was the other kind of part of it.
Just didn't need as much house.
Yeah, and I think it was just the weight of it, like the weight of how much everything was costing to keep it going and all of that. I remember always being really aware of finances in our house and always feeling like we were on the brink of like some kind of horrible, even though we weren't,
Right.
like just feeling ultra sensitive or something to it.
Sure.
Like to a like extreme, I think, negative,
Yeah.
like feeling bad about stuff, and money. I
Yeah.
think when they brought up like, I think we're gonna have to sell the house because it's costing us a lot of money or something, it would be a lot easier if we just bought a house.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I feel like I was maybe, and it would be interesting to hear what my sister and dad have to say about that, but I feel like I was the most sensitive to how hard it was for her to be working, my mom to be working in
Mm.
a factory.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like maybe I was the one who was listening, and Darcy and my dad had more freedom, kind of like Darcy was driving and able to go live her own life, but I was still at the house kind of watching it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she was like, I'm done, I was like, good,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't even care what that means for us.
Yeah.
Like, we'll be fine. I know
Yeah. Yeah.
that. And it's going to be a lot better for you. And I think my dad and sister maybe struggled more with that because they knew what they were about to lose and they
Sure.
didn't want to lose it, which That's fair, and I can see that point of view now. But at the time, I was kind of like,
Yeah,
nothing's more
yeah,
important than, she's working hard. Like, she works really hard.
yeah.
And
So what did she do after leaving Saturn?
I think that's when she eventually found framing. Like, I think she took a little time off, but then she found a job at a frame shop and learned to do picture framing and just kind
Nice.
of found something more low key to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it was kind of like they did the math and decided if they live in this one place in Franklin, then she doesn't have to work as hard kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what she wanted.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you went off to art school,
Mm-hmm.
did that,
Mm-hmm.
had big adventures.
Mm-hmm.
What happens after that?
Yeah. Art school was its own thing. Probably a whole nother
Yeah, we can do another episode.
We should do an episode about that.
Special college stories edition.
Right.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was like cool to get away. I think it just kind of got me a little more independence, a little more. It is funny thinking back on it though, because I think I was way more sheltered and like came from more of a bubble than I ever realized. Like, I always felt like I was kind of out there here. And I
Mm-hmm.
still struggle with that to this day. I feel like if you're any kind of weird here,
Mm-hmm.
you really stick out. And in other places, it's not quite as harsh. It doesn't feel as intense to me. And so I think going to art school, I was kind of like, wow, I can kind of breathe a little because there are so many people like
Yeah.
me and in different ways. And like all these people are really comfortable being who they are. Making art is like a given. Everybody you run into on this campus makes art, which is
Right.
really nice. You don't have to like deal with, because I think what I struggle with is like the fact that you're different makes you like really interesting, which isn't really bad, but I never really wanted the attention for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I didn't want people to be like, whoa.
Right.
Or like, even though, like, as I'm saying it, it's not bad for people to think those things. It's just like a lot of pressure, maybe, or something like that, where you're just like, I'm just trying to figure out who I am,
Yeah.
honestly, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it does, I think being an artist makes you a little weird. And like, your tolerance for types of people is a little more open. And I think even in high school, maybe you might have realized like my friends were all over the spectrum. I had lots of different types of people that I like considered friends in
Yeah.
school. And I felt like I hopped groups.
Yeah.
Like I didn't belong. I would probably be theater if I had to be put into one. But
Sure.
even still, I felt like there was like a tight group in the theater and then there was like periphery characters, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of funny thinking about that. But anyway, so art school was like basically your theater people exploded into a whole school of
Yeah.
people, you know, and there's all types of stuff there. So that was really a huge blessing to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I mean about I wish I had known, really been able to beat it in my head what it was happening, because now that I'm grown, I'm like more like living in the world, working for so long. I'm like, man, you had 4 years of bliss. Like,
Yeah.
and you didn't really know it, you
Yeah.
know, like you knew it, but you
It's
just
hard
have
to-
different ideals and
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
right.
Yeah.
And I think too, there's like after art school, something about like what I was studying. I mean, I got really into like American culture, consumer culture, and like just this weird tension about like money and financial stuff and making money off your artwork or making art just for the sake of art. And all of that stuff was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And honestly, looking back, like the rejection of making money, it was like appealing to me, but it's like detrimental when you're an adult trying to enter the world, because like you really have to start thinking about those things. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I hate that. It ruins your process. And like, I just...
So, when you finished art school, what was the plan? Did you have a plan?
So yeah, so this is funny. I'm like thinking back on it, and my thinking was so naive, but
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
I think I was like something. This doesn't even make sense to say it out loud, but I'm going to say it. I wanted to just have quote normal jobs because I felt like I needed to know what that felt like, and I needed the experience because it was like the right thing to do somehow to
Sure.
understand the working person's, the average
Yeah.
person. And then there was just something in my brain. It took me a really long time to get this through my head that like minimum wage had to be enough or like around there. There had to be a way to make that work where it made sense
Mm-hmm.
and that I could do it.
Hmm.
And so like I just kind of got normal. I mean, honestly, right out of school I got lucky and got some cool jobs. They weren't well paid, but like I got to work at my art school as a technician, like in the
Cool.
printmaking department, and then I was like a telephone operator at the art museum, which was a way better job than I realized. I really thought it wasn't a great job, and now
Right.
I'm like, man, I would do that now if
Yeah.
I could, like, because it was cool. You got invited to all the events at the museum and stuff like that. So I just did normal stuff for a little while, and then eventually kind of went into retail and restaurants, and like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I feel like I've had hundreds of different crappy jobs, you know, over the
Yeah.
years, but some of them you make friends and then like um yeah, and I'm trying to think of how this was happening. So, yeah, I was just working kind of normal jobs. And then that's when my mom gets sick. So, there was this period of time where I'm like going home to try to help my mom and take care of her and then coming back and trying to live my life in Kansas City and like there's like this
Back and forth. Yeah.
pull and I moved home to be with my mom for like a whole year almost to go through like a round of chemo
She
and
had
all of
cancer.
that. Yeah, she got breast cancer. And so I moved home to go take care of her. But then there was like this whole, like, it was one of the best times in my life because I was able to sit and be with her and talk with her as a grown up and like really have good heart to hearts. And
Yeah.
when you're going through chemo and you're sick, there's really not much more to do than hang out, sit
Yeah.
around and talk and
Yep.
watch movies. And so I'm really happy that I was able to do that with her, even though it was like one of the hardest experiences ever. But I also remember like having this relationship with her that I knew was really important. But then if I had time alone, I was starting to spiral out of control. Like I wasn't able to deal with my emotions about her being sick.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had the opportunity, like when I moved back to Chattanooga to take care of her, I was like, oh, I should get a job. And I got like a restaurant job, which I'm not a big advocate for those because I feel like everyone I know, if you're like on the brink of something, you can get into a lot of trouble at a restaurant because there are a lot of people who love substances
Mm.
and they just give them to you. And drinking is like normal. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, I would go out after work with people and just drink way too much. And then that would bleed over into drinking more and like
Mm-hmm.
started using alcohol as like a number and that kind of thing. And it was really starting to get to a point where, and the people I was hanging out with could throw back so much more than me. And so I'd try to keep up and I'd get super drunk and like just wasn't like, didn't have control over my life. Started feeling
Right.
like it was spiraling. And I
Yeah.
was just like, I know I'm doing this because I'm trying to get out of my head because it's really hard to deal with what I'm dealing with at home. But I also feel like I'm losing myself and I don't have any artist friends here.
Mm-hmm.
All of my friends just party. Like they're,
Yeah.
it's like this phase in your life where you're like, it's not really doing me any good,
Yeah.
But so I think there was like this huge push for me that was like, I want my mom to see me doing something awesome. So the second she started getting better, I was like, well, I'm going back to Kansas City because I have an opportunity to live with artists and be an artist. I'm going to show you
Yeah.
this is who I am and it's awesome, And so there was that and that's when I started working at the art museum. And fortunately, they had like a really amazing HR thing where I could go home all the time, like the
Wow.
unpaid but family
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they let me use that to go help my mom. So I was still like going home a lot while she was um I'm sorry, I'm skipping. This
It's
is the
okay.
period of my life that's like blotchy a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like she got better, went into remission, and then got sick again. So then when she gets sick again is like she wants me to move home again, but I'm already in Kansas City,
Yeah.
kind of rebuilding.
Reestablished.
So it was really like hard trying to
Mm.
figure out what to do. And
How long of a period of time was that from when she was first diagnosed
a couple of years,
till
because
she passed?
that's interesting. Like that was right after college. This is actually incredible to me. Right after college, I'm like living in this little apartment, and my mom calls me and is like, Aunt Joycey has breast cancer, her sister. And I'm going to go out to Colorado and I'm going to go see her. Do you want to come? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And so she drives from Tennessee and picks me up in Kansas City, and we go out to Colorado and we spend like a week with Aunt Joycey. And while my mom is there, she gets a call from her doctor and finds out she has breast cancer too.
Wow.
So it was just like our family was just getting like, boom.
Yeah.
And what's even more insane is her Joycey's daughter Olivia gets breast cancer like a year later. So like it's just like our family is just being so like Olivia and her mom went through it together.
Wow.
That's insane to me. And
Did they both survive?
Joycey didn't. Her mom didn't. So my mom passed before Joycey. So it's just all kind of crazy like that. It's like the mom got it. Then we were trying to figure out, how best kind of protocol. Like, do I move back home, or do we just like have this hope like, oh, it's going to be okay. You're going to get better. So I'll just come visit you. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of weird psychology that goes on when people are that sick, where, some of our family members were like straight up like, she's fine. Nothing's going to happen to her, because it was just like you had to believe that. And then I was kind of more like scared because I'm like, well, she had it before and I watched her go through it. Now it's back. And like, oh, how many times is this going to happen? Like how many times and how long? And I remember, I feel like an ass now, but I remember kind of like wanting the answer to that. Like, how long is this going to go on?
Yeah.
Like, if I move home, is it going to be the next 10 years of my life? And that's such a shitty thing to like ask somebody who's sick, or like expect anyone to know the answer to that, because no one does.
Right.
But I was really like having trouble kind of picturing like what was my role in all of this and what could I do for her.
Yeah.
And I was like preparing myself to move home to be with her again, like the week that she passed away. So it was just like very strange timing.
Where was your dad during that?
He was living with her in Chattanooga. Mm-hmm.
All right. You just said, when you said taking care of her and stuff, I didn't know.
So, it's complicated. It was like he was there, but he just didn't know what to do for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like when I look at it, and again, I would be interested to see kind of his point of view, but I think he was kind of checking out in a lot of ways because he was scared and didn't really know,
Yep.
And I think when I was seeing some things getting kind of bad, and I was trying to like, my aunt and I were the ones to check her into hospice because it was just really stressful to watch her try to keep track of certain things like her medications and all of that. And you're like, who's helping her with this? And I think like, again, I'm like, I think my dad tried, but it didn't. I'm like hesitant to say it because I wouldn't want to hurt him, but I just didn't feel like he had a handle of it. Like it was like overwhelming for him. So
sure.
And I think the whole idea, like when you check in someone to hospice, you're kind of saying, this is it. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want to hear those words. But it was a lifesaver to get her in that program because she finally got like some kind of like nursing attention one-on-one in her house, where she didn't have to go to the hospital and go to an appointment because it was getting there.
How long was she in hospice before she passed?
Just a few months, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were coming back and forth during all of that?
Mm-hmm. And I was preparing to move home because it was really starting to get obvious that like she was like getting cancer in more places and things like that.
When you said you were in Kansas City when she passed?
Well, actually, it was with her.
Were you? Can you talk about that?
So I'm living in Kansas City in this loft with a bunch of artists. So it was like a warehouse. And I'm preparing to go back home to be with her for the summer and indefinitely, kind of like I didn't really know what the plan was, but we're just going to see. And I think I'd worked it out with my roommates that like somebody could take over my lease or sublet, or I don't know. I was working all of those little details out.
Sure.
And I think I even had like a friend coming in from out of town, and that's why I was postponing coming back home. And I remember one morning woke up and my dad was like, you have to come home now. And I was just like, I can't. Jessica's coming and I have to wait. And he was like, no, you have to do it right now. You have
Yeah.
to get on the online and get yourself a flight today.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
I know what that means.
Yeah.
And so, and this is so interesting too. Like my sister and I stopped talking around this time period because I didn't really, I was frustrated with the way she was dealing with stuff with my mom. I didn't feel like she was really there for her in the way that I felt like I was carrying a lot of the weight and it was stressful. And I felt like she was kind of just whatever.
Yeah.
So we weren't really talking. We're very different. But then when I got that flight booked, she was the one to pick me up from the airport and drive me to Chattanooga. And I'll just never forget like getting in the car and us both just kind of looking at each other like, we're going to like drop all this, right? Because this is happening. And it was just like, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like dealt with it really differently because we went down there and we had like 2 days with her. She was like pretty sure it was kind of the situation where she was waiting for us, you know? And when she saw us, she was kind of like relieved and like, okay, like I can do this because everyone's here. And it was really beautiful. It's such a bizarre fact of my life that my mom's death was one of the most beautiful spiritual experiences I've ever had. And like just really relieved me of a lot of like, I think, normal stresses that people might deal with if they haven't gone through that, because you really see what's important. And you're like, any job after that where someone tries to make you feel some kind of pressure, you're like, no, man, like, I know what real stress is. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not going to freak out over this. Like,
I've seen important things. This is not one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
She was baptized like the day before she died. She was going to Bible study and kind of like, I don't know if you want to say born again, but just rediscovering like her faith and finding people to support her. And one of her friends was like, she said she wanted to be baptized again. So you wanna? And we were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Tyler, are you ready for this? This is really cool. So we gather, me, Darcy, our friend Emily. Oh, I hope I don't make people mad by forgetting. Darcy's fiance, Jeremy, and his mother with their guitars, singing her songs.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And then like some neighbors and some of my mom's friends, we all gathered together to like baptize her. And she's like laying in bed, barely responsive. They lift the ladle up to like put the water on her. Her eyes pop open. She scans the room and she goes, wow. And we were just like, you saw that, right? You saw that, right? You know, like we were just like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those where the whole room was just like,
Yeah.
yep. And
That's
she was just
awesome.
that amazing too, that you're just like, yes, this would happen with this person.
Yeah.
Like, you know? And I think it was a blessing for everybody too. It just makes you feel a little like, okay, this is the worst, but this is not the worst kind of. I don't know how to explain it. It's really hard to explain, but
If, it's weird to say, if you can experience death with someone,
yeah.
that you should.
Yeah.
It sounds like an awful thing. I mean, if you can be involved in someone's life as they are walking through what is potentially the hardest thing,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can, if it sounds so weird to say, if you're given the gift and opportunity of watching someone die, that you absolutely should do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nothing else like it.
It's like birth. I mean, it's like
Yep.
that powerful and that spiritual.
And that intimate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's true, like, there were moments with my mom where I knew that she appreciated the fact that I was sitting with her in moments that were ugly and uncomfortable and, like, boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, chemo was boring and stressful and, like, you know. And I did. I think I was aware the whole time that this is, like, this is precious. This time is precious. And I don't really know.
Yeah.
I did go to sit with her without even thinking really second thought. The first time I went out there, I was just like, I'm going to be with her. It
Yeah.
was just kind of,
Yeah.
and it's funny because since it's like, I don't know who else I would be like that for.
Right.
Especially going through what I went through. I'm a little more hesitant to lean into like helping and saving people because I'm just kind of like, it took me so long to feel normal after all of
Right.
it. And granted, it was my mom, so
Yeah.
that's one of the worst.
But
And you carry it with you forever. I mean, like, that's what I'm learning too. And
yeah.
it's funny because every April is like the anniversary of her death. Every April I go through a funk. And this was the first time I had to go through it with somebody, being in a relationship.
Yeah.
And just even explaining that to him. Like, there were moments where it was really tricky because he's just like, seriously? Like, there's part of him that just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And
No,
he still has
absolutely.
both parents, and they're both really, they're both really involved in his life.
Yeah.
So then there's this part of me that's like, I don't want you to know what this feels like. I don't want anyone to know what it feels like.
Right.
But when you experience it, you'll know it doesn't go away, and it's not really supposed to. It's just kind of like that new normal, whatever. That's the best phrase I've found so far.
Yeah.
I want her to be important, and I don't ever want to not think about her,
Yeah.
because she's that amazing, like
Yeah.
that she doesn't deserve to be forgotten about at
Sure.
all,
Yeah.
But on the same coin or whatever, it's like she doesn't want me to live my life being miserable and sad,
Right.
know?
Yeah.
It's the last thing she wants. Yeah.
So, your mom passed.
Mm-hmm.
Did you move? You did move back to Chattanooga, didn't you?
Very briefly, because I got my visa to go to New Zealand.
So did you move to New Zealand? Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so when my mom was sick, I had this little, in the period of time where I was like, I'm going to show my mom how awesome I am before she dies, really, in the back of my mind was what it was. I need to show her that I'm capable of awesome things and doing awesome things. I applied for this creative advertising program in New Zealand because it was two things. It was I'm traveling and I'm doing this career path that I think I would be really awesome at.
Yeah.
Which I still think I would be good at it, but who knows?
Yeah.
So I got into the program and I like presented it to them and I was like, I want to do this, but I'm going to need help with money. And they were like, yeah, so we don't think we can help you with that.
Good luck.
Yeah, they were like, good luck finding the money. Have fun. And so I just kind of let it go. Like, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can actually figure out how to make this work. But then the seed of like getting to New Zealand was planted there.
Mm-hmm.
And while my mom was sick, she kept bringing it up. Like, I still want you to go. Like, I still want you to do that, even though we can't give you any money for it. Like, figure out how to make it happen. And then, like, one of the last things she ever did for me was bought me, like, a New Zealand travel guide. And she, like, was like, I want you to go do this. And so when I came back from the funeral and all of that, I was just kind of sitting in my apartment, those, like, quiet moments. I'm like, I need to just make that happen.
Yeah.
Like, there's really nothing else going for me other than just, like, everyday mundane living. Drinking too much, probably.
Yeah.
And just kind of... I was making art, which is kind of awesome. When I look back, I'm like, I was really actually productive artistically. I had a little studio situation. But I think I was just getting depressed and needing kind of to prove something to myself about just, like, letting it go and going to do something big and great. And so, yeah, so I applied for I found out about the working holiday visa, I applied for it, and I swear to God, like 2 days later, they gave me one. It was that quick.
Wow.
And it didn't cost me anything. It was like it was fate.
Huh.
It was like the universe, like
Yeah.
inner God, whatever you want to credit. Like, it was like the thought in my mind. I was like, well, I'll just apply. And it was just like, bam, bam. Okay, you have it now. And you have this many days to use it. And then it's a year after that you get a year to travel and
Wow.
work in New Zealand. And yeah. So
Was
I
it
had
great?
to figure out how to make it happen. Yeah, it totally was. It was awesome. I fantasize about doing stuff like that all the time because it's just it proves something to yourself, I think. Like, I did a little bit of research before I picked New Zealand, and I thought it needs to be somewhere where you speak English. It needs to be somewhere that's safe, that, like, you don't hear about people disappearing and like, because I'm going by myself.
Right.
And yeah, so New Zealand is, I mean, I think it's still like that, but at the time it was like one of the safest places to travel anywhere, really. So that was like not risky. It was really just to prove to myself that I could put this stuff together and figure it out.
And you did.
And I did. It was
That's
really
awesome.
fun.
So how did you end up back in Nashville? Was it Tommy?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
that's awesome.
Totally. Yeah.
Very cool.
Because New Zealand was just a year, and it was an amazing year. It was
Okay.
like a lot of travel, but mostly I found a church, and I like got really plugged into that, and like it was really unexpected.
That is a big deal because New Zealand's not a very churched
Not
place.
at all. Not at all. But it was through a Nashville connection. Like my sister was going to the Anchor.
Okay. Yep.
And she had some friends from New Zealand who went there. And
Yeah.
so right before I left, I met them and they told me, you know, if you ever have an opportunity, go to this place. And it just kind of threw
That's awesome.
fate. I was like, yeah, you know, I'll go to church. It's Sunday and I don't know anybody and I don't have anything to do. So let's just
Might
see
as
what
well.
this is, you know, and why not? And yeah, and end up being like a community that embraced me. And like I traveled a little, but then I ended up coming back to Auckland because I wanted it to be like, I want to live with people. I want to know what it's like to live here instead of just be a traveler.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so that completely changed my life in terms of like, now I'm like a Christian again, or like, you know, whatever that means. And
Yeah.
thinking about that stuff and really like realizing that there's this theme, or starting to look like a theme of like people coming into my, like, you just end up being really grateful for people who walk into your life in moments like that, or who aren't afraid of like you're ugly, you're broken, whatever, you know, and like are just like, nope, come on in, you know, and that was the type of place it was. So still friends, like I still have friends from that time period that I'm close to and love so much. I just had one friend come visit me.
That's awesome.
She still works at that same church too.
Wow.
So it's kind of cool. It's like you find little communities everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's honestly overall what it proved to me is like I can make a life happen anywhere, and I can find a community anywhere.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Miranda, what scares you?
Being bored.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Not changing.
Yeah.
Things being stagnant.
Yep. I get that.
Yeah.
What do you regret?
That's a good question. I try not to.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't have regrets, but I would probably say that like the root of regret comes from like lack of confidence, like not having the confidence that I needed, or not being able to fake the confidence that I needed to do the things that I could do.
Okay.
I think maybe like to be totally vulnerable and honest about that, it's probably just not going hard enough into my art and my career, even though I feel like I'm still working on it and that there's still time and that that's kind of a process for the rest of my life. But I look back and I'm like, I did have some opportunities that I just was like, oh, I'm not ready, or like, you know, when I could have just done it and it would have been great, you know? So but you can't really like hold on to that stuff. It just happens the way it's supposed to, you know? Yeah. Because I mean, you can go back in your life and be like, what if I did this or that or this or that? But I think that's why I tried really hard to do some like kind of out there, like experimental, like I'm just going to move to New Zealand. I'm going to, you know, because I wanted to be able to be like, well, I tried it. Now I know, you know?
Yep.
And yeah. So.
Who is God?
Who is God? The first word that comes up is Father, but I also like the idea of it being like non-gendered, gender neutral. One of my pastors in New Zealand, because I was like in the clutches of grief, going through that with them.
Yeah.
She said, I like to think of God as a parent. and that's the kind of love, like the best parent, like the ideal parent, not like reality, but like the best kind of parental love is the kind of love that you get from God. And so that resonates with me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, at our most vulnerable, we feel like kids and we need the love of a parent that like sees us as perfect and just like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's kind of the best answer I have right now. But I think it's something I'm open to too. I think something that gives me a lot of peace with God is like, I don't have to know,
Yeah. Yep.
and I just have to be and try to stay connected and try to communicate. And I do think I've had that feeling for a really long time of, oh, I have like an open door. I can always just tap in
Yeah.
and communicate
Yeah.
with God. So I don't know. Like, I guess to be continued. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But God is good. That's what I know. I feel like I have a lot more than I deserve. I know that sounds like whatever, but
No, I get it.
I think I've put myself in some interesting situations and gotten through. And yeah. Yeah. Have I exhausted you yet?
No, I'm good. I'm ready to go. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Maybe I'm becoming a softie, but I swear to you, I've started crying in just about every interview I do. And hopefully you didn't hear it too loud in that one, but it's in there. That's not the point. The point is, Miranda's story is fantastic, and I hope that you guys are able to identify with and empathize with her experiences. Because that's what we're here for. That's what this is all about. If you'd like to see what Miranda looks like, see the portraits I made of her, you can do so on our website. That's www.butenouughabout.me. You can also find other episodes on there, like Eric Brown and Bree Reynolds and Abdukati and Corey Trimble and a bunch of other folks. This is the 11th episode, guys, which is super exciting for me. And I just recorded a couple more interviews. I've got at least 5 more already recorded that I can't wait to share with you, and I'm not slowing down anytime soon. If you'd like to see the portraits I made of Miranda, you can go to the website, which is www.butenouughabout.me, or go to our Instagram page, instagram.com/butenoughAboutMePodcast, or the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/butenoughAboutMePodcast. Connect with us there, follow along. If you did, then you might have already known that I was in the hospital with my son because I Instagrammed it. We try to update that pretty consistently, let you guys know what's going on. Also, it's a great way for you to help me connect with people I should be talking to. Because eventually, I am going to run out of friends, and I need people that I don't know very well. Our theme music comes from Mr. Jace Hackman. You can hear more of his work at jacehackman.com. The graphic design is all done by Mr. Casey Jones. You can connect with him at imcaseyjones.com. Incidentally, that fantastic design, if you would like a sticker, they're 4x4 and they're vinyl and they look great on laptops and bumpers and anywhere else that they can be seen publicly. If you would like one of those stickers, I've got them. They are free to you. Just let me know you want it and get me your address. I'll send it in the mail to you. Hopefully life calms down here for me and allows me a little more time to edit and record things properly. If it does, we'll be back here again in 2 weeks. In the meantime, you have an assignment. Go find somebody, buy them a cup of coffee or a glass of whiskey, and ask them to tell you their story. My name is Tyler Andrews, but enough about me.